Today's toy spot, we're having a look at the NECA Toys Batman Begins, the Dark Knight Trilogy 1/4 scale action figure. A whopping 1/4 scale action figure Batman finally released from the folks over at NECA Toys. Truthfully, I kind of wish that they were smaller. I mean, I wish NECA could have gotten the license for a 6-inch version of these characters. Equally so with the very tall 1/4 scale Penguin and the Catwoman as well that's going to be released. I always wish, again, that they were a little bit smaller. But again, you have to admit, a 1/4 scale release of Christian Bale is pretty cool. There's the side of the box. I don't know how much I'm going to actually get here. There's the bottom of it. Lifelike portrait and accurate body proportions of Christian Bale as Batman. It does come with his concealed hypersonic sounder. It comes with some additional grappling hook, large foldable batarang, small batarang, and 2 mini mines. And he also has a fabric cape that spreads 39 inches in width. There's the back of the packaging with a very small read-up, or more so a quote. It says, "And there's something out there in the darkness, something terrifying, something that will not stop until it gets revenge. Me." I guess I probably should have done that in the Batman voice. It says Batman Begins, the first chapter of the acclaimed director Christopher Nolan's seminal Dark Knight trilogy, explores the origins of the legendary Dark Knight. In the wake of his parents' murders, delusional heir Bruce Wayne, Christian Bale, travels the world seeking the means to fight injustice, leading to his joining of the mysterious League of Shadows, led by Ra's al Ghul, which actually even puts in quotations that are in brackets, that's Liam Neeson. Wayne returns to Gotham City 7 years later, and with the help of his trusted butler Alfred, Michael Caine, Detective Jim Gordon, Gary Oldman, and his ally Lucius Fox, Morgan Freeman, he unleashes his alter ego Batman, a masked crusader who uses strength, intellect, and an array of high-tech weaponry to turn fear against those who prey on the fearful. To check out more from the folks over at NECA Toys, make sure you head over to www.necaonline.com. Spot's going to take himself a break and get this opened up. But when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the 1/4 scale of the Dark Knight Trilogy, Batman Begins, Batman. There's more heading your way. Don't go anywhere. As you could probably expect it, a 1/4 scale Batman Begins Christian Bale is going to be extremely tall, and this is basically as much as I can get on frame here. Before we have a look at the figure itself, let's have a look at the accessories that come included. For starters, Batman comes with his grappling gun, which, like the movie itself and other releases of Batman, does clip on. You can clip it onto the back of his utility belt. Nice touch. I do like the coloring as well. They picked the perfect gold, actually as well, they picked the perfect gold for his utility belt, but the grappling gun looks stellar. He also comes with a foldable batarang. The only thing is, though, I don't know if I would fold this all that often. The hinge works, and it seems to work fine, but I worry that at any point, how much stress am I adding to that hinge joint that this may eventually go. But it does seem to hinge. It hinges all the way, but I'm just a little apprehensive to, again, folding that back and forth. If you prefer something a little bit smaller, however, Batman also comes with a smaller version of the Batarang, which is not foldable. He comes with 2 variations of the mini mines, one retracted and then one extended. I thought they were all just primarily black with that little silver accents on the sides, but there was actually the little red buttons on the top there where he would activate it. A nice touch. He gets also his concealed hypersonic sounder, which he uses when he's entering, or actually more so when he's escaping Arkham Asylum. He sounds his bat army and then escapes out that way. I'll show you how to place this onto his foot in a second. Let's have a look at some of the other accessories first. Factoring in that Batman has complete closed fists, luckily the folks over at NECA Toys give you some extra hands to work with. He has hands suited for holding, for example, the batarangs, where you can put the batarang into his hand like that. He comes with a hand suited for holding the grapnel gun or grappling gun. But again, you have to just kind of really, You have to kind of really wedge it into his hand, getting it around the thumb area, but it holds just fine. And then as well, he comes with this hand, which I can only ascertain is likely for holding his sounder. Or again, you could use it perhaps for holding the mines, maybe just kind of wedging them in between his fingers like that. One rather nice surprise though, and something that's not listed on the packaging itself, if you look at the bottom corner of the interior of the box, sure enough, you'll find yourself a little tiny Joker card inside. There's the back of it right there. Again, it's just a cardboard card, but I do appreciate that NECA would have gone as far as to put that in, as that is the final closing scene of the Batman Begins movie, leading into then the Dark Knight. As I promised, here's the underside of Batman's boots. You'll see that only really one side supports the supersonic or hypersonic sounder, and that just clips into his boots like that. The other boot is completely treaded, so it will only go in this one side. And to remove it, simply just pull, just a little pull tab on the side. It seems to hold. It doesn't seem like it wants to pop out of place. Standing him, you could probably just ideally stand him with the sounder already installed in the heel of his boot. Accessories aside, now let's have a look at the Cape Crusader and see how well he turned out from the folks over at NECA. I have to admit, they did an astonishing job on the figure. I have one little nitpick, just one, but overall the figure is fantastic. Now, displaying him can be a little bit more problematic because he is, after all, a 1/4 scale, so he's a lot taller than even like a 12-inch figure. He's going to basically tower over other figures that you have, so Spot's not always inclined to pick these up. I know you guys like to see when Spot does these reviews, but the figures are just so large, you really have to have a proper space to do them justice. This figure, no pun intended, really deserves the utmost justice when displaying him, because again, I think they did a great job. We'll get this out of the way first. This is the one slight nitpick I have with this figure, and that is the shadowing that they've added around the mouth area of Batman. I feel like in the movie more so, Christian Bale is kind of clean shaven when it comes especially to him portraying Batman, that I feel like the additional shadowing around the mustache area or around where the chin would be as well, it looks like it's the start of a goatee. I feel like if they had only simply omitted that, the figure face is quite good. Batman also has quite a stellar side profile as well. I've always really liked the cowl on Batman Begins Batman. It's something that I missed so much when it came to the Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, because of course by then he's wearing a helmet that's going over top of his neck piece. I kind of like the more consistent, fluent motion of the cowl going right into the neck, but of course, from a realistic standpoint, I know that would hinder Batman's neck movement. But I think NECA did a great job on the head sculpt, just for simply the shading. If the shading wasn't there, I think this head sculpt would have been perfect. Now, the majority of Batman's body is more primarily black. You don't really get a lot of coloring with the Nolan Batman. It's not really, unless you start looking at his utility belt, which is that carryover of the gold, but primarily the color from head to toe is all black. It does break up, as he does have the shinier aspects around the bladed gauntlet areas of his forearms, and then of course when you start looking at his boots, that he does have the additional sheen there on the front plate of his leg, or on the front calf area there. The figure though is quite nice, and you know one thing, as I should not necessarily do, but comparing him to, say, a 6-scale release of Batman, I have the Hot Toys Batman, the Batman Begins Batman, and I have to admit, in all honesty, I feel like this cape is a far superior fabric to the one that they used for the Batman Begins Hot Toys release. It's almost like a crushed velvet, and again, it has a good quality feel to it. I did notice though, and maybe it's just perhaps mine, if you move the cape out of the way here, the little shoulder parts of his armor seem to have done some wear. Maybe I can just rub it out here. Some wear to the areas where the cape would have sat over top of it. It's basically sitting on those lines of the armor that looks like I've got just a little bit of wear to it. I've also noticed too, if I move the cape out of the way here, and it might be probably on all the figures, but there's like a little bit of this slick residue that they've added to the torso. My guess is so the torso will still remain movable, like where you can actually move the joint around just to kind of loosen it up. But I might actually want to just take a cloth to that and check this maybe when you get this figure for yourself. Check that this residual isn't there. You might want to just take a cloth and just kind of wipe it down so it doesn't add any stain to the cape itself. Specifically when it comes to the Nolan Batman cape, or for a Batman Begins cape, I tend to always have the capes running as far back behind the shoulders as I can, usually like something like this. However, if you are somebody that wants a little bit more of a wingspan to the cape itself, the cape spreads an astonishing, let me see if I can actually hold the figure and hold the cape. There's one side of it. And then imagining, if you will, that doubled, well, this on either side. The cape span spreads an astonishing 31 inches. Now you imagine this figure, the cape spreads almost, I would say, double of what the figure is. That's pretty impressive. I also like the material that they use on the inside there as well. As I mentioned already, the cape feels like it's a good quality cape, so points there for NECA. Again, for me, I'm going to be displaying the cape more so behind Batman and just kind of straighten it out. I feel like the cape flows well. Flows actually quite well. Just a matter of getting Batman to properly stand up. Now, when it comes to Batman's articulation, he has the following. Perhaps almost as accurate as his real-life counterpart, Batman's head is a little on the limited side. He doesn't seem to have any articulation here, although the neck does feel like it's softer. I can't seem to get much motion and movement from the head section itself. He does, however, have a ball joint that sits at the base of the neck, but again, you can't really do too much motion and movement from the neck itself. When it comes to his torso, Batman's torso is on its own independent joint. It does rotate side to side and slightly up and down. Not to mention, Batman also has a swivel in the waist itself. For his arms, Batman's arms hinge out, forward, back. He has a swivel point right at the bicep section. He has a double hinged elbow. He doesn't have any rotation, it appears, in the gauntlet area, but he does have a swivel and hinge in the individual hands. Batman's legs actually are more posable than you would probably expect. Luckily, much like some of the larger other figures that NECA has produced, they have a rubber lower waist area that conceals over the ball joint. It's not even so much a ball joint as it appears more like a ratcheted joint. It does split quite wide. Maybe forward and back motion, I have to admit, is a little more limited. But if you want to split on Batman, you could probably even give him you could have him probably displayed even doing karate kicks. Then from there, he has a double hinged knee, which is just really stiff. And then he also has a swivel on the boot section and a hinge on the individual feet. Spot simply loves this Batman Begins release from the folks over at NECA. But I have to admit, it does take a certain type of collector to be collecting these 1/4 scale figures. Someone who does have the proper space allocated where you could put these fantastic display pieces out on display. It may alienate, I think, some of the collectors that maybe are pressed for space, that are more accustomed to the 6-inch figures, which is all the more crime, again, relating to Batman. The true crime is not necessarily the Joker. It's not necessarily Scarecrow. It's not even necessarily Bane. The true crime is the fact that, well, the wrong companies have handled this franchise. Really, movie franchise as a whole. NECA Toys really should have had the Batman Begins license right from the very beginning. They really should have had a lot of the DC licenses right from the beginning, because as you can clearly see, they are a far superior figure company when it comes to representing the characters that they release the figures for. I wish we had gotten this figure in a 6-inch release, and ultimately, well, you know who it went to. Mattel was really the ones that were overseeing and helming the movie property figures. The real crime is the fact that NECA really should have been releasing it. Having seen what they've done now with the Penguin, the Marvel properties, we've already seen some Avenger release 1/4 scale figures, and now seeing Batman Begins Batman here, these figures so desperately needed to be in a smaller scale release as well. I am not by any means dismissing the fact that you shouldn't pick this up, but being that it's also a taller figure, the price point's a little bit more expensive, and of course you can't overlook the fact that you need the proper area in your room to accommodate a figure this big. If you can have the space for it, and you do like Batman, do yourself a favor and pick this up. But again, I really hope somewhere along the lines, even if they could release, say, a 7-inch figure that kind of gets it out of that boundary of, you know, ownership rights, if they can get into the realm of maybe a 7-inch figure, or even, dare I say, an 8-inch figure, and start releasing movie property releases, I would definitely be on board for that. In the meantime, I love this figure. He's just really tall. Today's toy spot, we were having a look at the NECA Toys Batman Begins. This was the 1/4 scale Batman. Awesome, awesome figure. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more toy spots heading your way. As always, thanks for watching, as you always do. I'll see you next time.